We are live on YouTube. Mandar, could you display the Zoom meeting ID in the PPT as well, so that we can tell the YouTube audience to come here and ask
Sure,
us.
sure. You can put it up.
Yeah, I'll type it over here, okay? Mm-hmm. Just a second, guys. Okay. Hi, all. My name is Mandar, and I'm a faculty over here in sound. I work in the Pune campus, and today's webinar's topic is how to make your career in sound engineering. So, thank you for joining us today over here, and I hope that it will be beneficial for you. So, along with me, I have three faculties with me who will be the panelists of this webinar, and they will be explaining you about the different streams in sound engineering. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so we have Roger Walker, Mandar Patil, and Hitanshu Patnaik. So Roger Walker is a Ableton Live expert and a producer. Roger studied in Dubai, and then he he started working in Dubai on major projects for performing arts theater, and then he moved to Singapore and he worked as a creative manager over there, and he was doing live and post production for the local and international bands over there. Uh, then we have Mandar Patil, who recently cleared his 200 level, and he's a 200 level Pro Tools trainer now, and he does a live sound engineering also. Uh, Manda's range of Manda's range of skills includes mixing, mastering, as I said, live sound, location sound, and post production. And he does a studio construction also. Mandar is was a part of audiovisual industry for 2 years with Now Jagruti Media and Entertainment. Uh, then we have a Hitanshu Patnaik, who is a music composer and a producer, and he's also a faculty in sound engineering, Pune campus. Hitanshu has been extensively working for Indian cinema. He majorly works in South film industry as a music producer and composer, mix engineer. He recently worked on a one Kannada movie called Malgudi Days, and he also have worked with artists like Raghu Dikshit, Vijay Prakash, and many more. So today these guys will be explaining you about the different streams in sound engineering, and they'll be taking over through every aspects of it. So let's move on to next slide. And now so these are the different streams in sound engineering. As you can see, music production, film sound, live sound, game sound, and television and broadcast. So each of these panelists will be explaining you what these fields are and how they work. So now I would like to actually Hitanshu to speak about music production. So Hitanshu, if you could explain our guest.
Thank you, Mandar. Hope you can hear me. Yeah, so my name is Hitanshu Patnaik, and I've been extensively, as Mandar also said, that I've been working for Indian cinema, also been working also as a music producer and a composer. And yeah, so regarding music production, it's always when people they have confusions. Music production, some people they feel that it's monetary. A person has to give money to produce music or something like that. People they are slowly getting knowing about the aspect of music production, and it's good to also educate people also, like normal laymen, how exactly they are knowing about what exactly the essentiality, the criterias of music production over the composition. So normally a composer who actually composes the lyrics, who pen the entire composition, tone by tone, and lyrics by lyrics. If there is no lyrics, then sometimes mostly listen to melody and many more stuff. So just to make it more beautify and make the background music more really good, so music production carries that particular perspectives where you a person being a music producer, you're completely like reliable for choosing the right elements, starting from that until you reach to the structuring it of the entire music, and starting from the top to the entire ending, starting from the intro until you reach to the outro of the entire musical production of it. So here I got a slice for you ready. So as you can see, pre-production, tracking, mixing, mastering, delivery. So these are the different stages which you can see over there. Pre-production, mostly when you reach where you start sitting with the client whenever you're working for any other person, or let's say you are only by yourself, you are a music producer who actually produces your music with the composition. So you need to know what exactly the criteria you need to meet. Mostly you need to structure out the entire music by your basic piano lines, and you get into the layering down beats, drums, rhythms, bass, and many more other elements on the top of. Before, it was 60s 70s era, it was completely live instrument. And also slowly when we got into electronic music, and where we completely got into computer music, live instrument become very accessible for us, where we can just play as a pianist all kind of instruments. So those are the important thing as a music producer. Yeah, as I told you, reliable for everything, starting from rhythm, bass line, and many more other stuff which you get into. Understanding the music composers criteria, or let's say if you work for a movie, then probably you need to get into those particular perspectives, then get into tracking, then mixing, mastering perspectives of it. So tracking, mostly when you choose right engineer with you when he has to record with you, and vocalist, you're going to choose the vocalist who is going to sing for that. Then slowly get into the final production of it, mixing, refining your entire music, then getting into the entire loudness of the music. That is when you reach to the mastering. And at last, delivery, where those perspectives really broaden area, where different production, different record label, they work in a different format. Mostly we listen to MP3, that's the delivery format in common. And right now we listen to AAC and like that and so on. So yeah, that's what is all about in short, which I would like to say about stages of music production. And moving forward for the next slide, probably where Manda can lead off again.
Yeah. So, good afternoon, guys. And basically, similar to what we did before, there are stages of production for live sound as well. And in live sound, there are various aspects in which you can develop your career as a live sound engineer. So, not only as a mixing engineer, but you can have various aspects of live sound as your career. So, managing clients is one of them. With managing clients, you have a tendency of dealing with people, with the artist, getting them together and managing their times and the requirements. That is the first major aspects of working in live sound environment. And once everyone is happy, then the event goes very well. Next, basically you can have and do your sound setup and stage management. Stage management is one again a very huge field of learning and very helpful project in live sound. So basically, stage setups requirement according to the artist, where they want to stand, their positioning, their rest of the things, their level managements can be done using the sound setup and stage management. Then coming towards the sound check, before the show starts, you need to maintain the sound levels properly. Everyone in the on stage, off stage should be able to understand easily and very clearly what the deliverable content is happening. So again with that, sound check is very helpful, but it is not the first stage that you will get into. You will have to start from the basic, and then you go to a level where you can do the sound check. After being a sound check, after you're done with the sound check, you can start your live sound production with being an FOH engineer or the assistant FOH engineer or monitoring mixing engineer. So for bigger shows, there are two kinds of setups done. One who only works on the stage management and mixing the stage, and the another FOH engineer is basically the engineer who works for the audio which is delivered to the audience, and that makes your show a wonderful show. So these are various fields in live sound where we see this. Apart from this, in live sound, there are various aspects of mic placements, then how that mic should be properly managed, what should be the levels and all. So these are the aspects of live sound that you will learn. So apart from live sound, there is another field called as film. So similar to music, there are three stages in film sound.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So the major stages are pre-production, production, and post-production. So in pre-production, what basically you do as a location sound engineer, you do location reikis in the beginning with the film team so that you understand how the environment is going to be and what are the requirements. So once you go on the location, do the reiki of the location, you understand the environment, then you finalize your equipments depending on the locations that you have seen, then finalizing the team that is required, number of people required for the team. So all these things that you decide before entering to the production stage is known as pre-production. Basically even finalizing the budget of equipments and the team is also a part of pre-production. Once this all things is done, then we move actually to the production, that is called as shooting or tracking. So in shooting or tracking, what we do is go on the location with all the equipments properly placed for the artist, and we do actual recording of the audio that is required for the film. Once that is done, we go into the post production stage. So post production stage is a bit little late for audio guys. So where it is concerned, we get the final edited film from the video guys, and once we get that final edited film and audio to it, we start working. So in audio post production, what is the first stage that we do is assembling of the audio takes from the field recorder that we have already done in our production stage. Next thing is cleaning them and aligning it according to the requirement, wherever which artist is speaking, or what ambience is required, then what music is going to come up. So adding music and effects with the dialogues is the most important part that comes after cleaning your dialogues, then balancing them according to the feed, or what is the requirement of the film, whether it is a documentary or whether it is a feature length film. So depending on the nature of film, the levels and where it is going to be delivered, like last stage is called as delivery. So in delivery, you have to decide in which areas that film is going to be distributed. So this is the major aspect as of. So delivery depends on whether it is going to be delivered in theaters or whether it is going to be delivered in Atmos theaters or 7.1 theaters or IMAX theaters. So depending on the format, you should deliver your content to the video team. Apart from that, formats for the audio that is required for delivery, that is the most important thing. If you are going to work on a film which is internationally distributed, sometimes you have to distribute in various languages. So according to that, you can give them different stems for different things, like dialogues can be a stem, music can be a stem, effects can be a stem, and depending on the nature, they can work on the delivery of the film. So this is the entire stage of production of film, that from an audio engineer's perspective. So basically, Mandar, you can host over to the next slide and where
Okay.
Madhur can speak about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Manda. So next we can go to game sound, which Roger will explain us how the production works of it.
Hey everybody, first of all, good morning. Thanks for having me here. So, game sound. When you talk about game sound, it's one of the most paid jobs in the sound engineering field, I would say. And sound in games is such a huge sector. So, when you talk about game sound, what it is actually all about, it's it's a job where you put all the sound in a game. Everything we hear in a game is put by a game sound engineer. It could be music, dialogue, sound effects. Usually, game sound engineer has a degree in sound engineering or sound technology and is also trained himself with a middleware application, which I would be talking about later in my presentation. So many of you all might have this question, where do these sounds actually come from? There are several sound libraries which are usually used for movies. So they are usually not game ready yet. They need to be tuned. They need to have different timing. Depends on what the character is doing in the game and how important is music in a game. In my point of view, it is super important. And the game wouldn't feel the same if the background music was not there to give you the immersive experience, right? For example, Star Wars or God of War, it wouldn't sound the same if there's no background music. Another example could be PUBG. Everybody has heard of this game. Statistics say that around 30 million people play this game on a daily basis. Just imagine playing PUBG without sound. You wouldn't even know when there are enemies around you, right? So saying it again, having sound and music is super important for games, and the market is growing constantly, having a huge demand for game engineers who do sound. So the steps in the production of a game sound is sound ideas and concepts is your first stage, where a sound engineer gets to meet the game developer and gets the entire concept of what the game is all about. He gets to know the storyline. He gets to know what the character is, if it's a role play game or it's a strategic game, it's an action game. Yeah, so that's done in the first stage where the sound engineer, game sound engineer has a complete idea of what he's approaching. And then comes to asset collection. Asset collection is where sound engineer actually starts collecting sounds and putting it in his archive for his future use. It could be footsteps, it could be gunshots, it could be people screaming at the back. So different kind of assets where it follows us to the next stage called sound design and game music. As Hitanshu and Mandar explained that sound and music is done by a sound engineer, and his expertise show up at different levels during this process. So sound design, for an example, if I have a character who's walking inside a house in a wooden floor, the footsteps sound like the character is walking on wood. Then the character is going to go out of his house into a forest where the character actually starts walking on leaves and trips on branches. That whole concept is brought to reality by a sound engineer, followed by which maybe the character could walk through a cave. Footsteps in a cave would sound a lot more different than footsteps inside a house or through a forest. So all these things are done in sound design. So the sound engineer basically manipulates the sound according to the game's requirement. Then comes game music, which plays a vital role. As I already said, Star Wars, the theme music used in the game, what an iconic theme. So those kind of game musics are integrated and developed by different sound engineers and put together for games. Then we come into audio implementation, where the sound engineer actually steps off his shoes and starts using another application, which is called middleware. For now, we use things called Fmod and WIs. So the sound engineer gets trained himself how to use them. And what this actually does is it puts different sound together, and it makes the audio engineers and the game developers' life super easy to translate what one is doing to another. So he puts everything together and he gives it to the to the game developer, and the game developer clearly understands what's happening. Then we move into the integration part, where the game developer starts actually integrating the sounds that the sound game engineer has given into the game itself. So this is the entire production process of the game design, and this could go to different stages of uh, the whole process over and over again, because a game, the final product of a game is something really special. And if something wants to be retuned, it can always go back to asset collection again, or it could go back to sound design again, and then go back to integration. So this is basically the entire process of a game sound production. So Mandar, could you move to the next slide?
Yeah, I think before we go to the next slide,
Yep.
let's take, there are some basic questions which are coming from students.
Yeah.
So I think we can, I'm sure if Puneet is also here, if he can ask.
Hey guys, so I see a couple of very basic questions. So first, Mandar Patil, for you, what is FOH?
So basically, FOH is a front of the house mixing engineer who basically manages all the monitors that are towards the audience. If you have visited a live sound setup, so whatever audio you as a listener are hearing, that is coming from the monitors that are facing towards you. So balancing those monitors is the work of FOH engineer.
And if you could go a little further, Harsh is asking, what is the difference between mixing and mastering?
Yeah, so basically these are two different stages of a song, in which mixing is basically getting it to a proper balance. Like if you have multiple artists playing multiple instruments in your song, so it cannot be a situation where all your musical instruments are presented on a single level and they are presented in center. So if you say know little bit about stereo, so when we mix for stereo, what the mixing engineer's work is to balance all the instruments in such a way that it gives a feel to that song, and it does not makes you feel that everything as a haphazard way. So that balancing of the tracks and giving it a particular area of placement in your mix is done by mixing engineer. And where we talk about mastering, so mastering is basically an advanced way of finalizing your track. It is not something which is only related to increasing the gain of your track. It needs final balancing to your track. So it's just like you have a product, but giving a final touch to your product is the work of mastering engineer in a very basic terminology that I can explain. But it has lot of in-depth, you should have lot of in-depth knowledge about mastering. Plus when you become a mastering engineer, you should know about the frequencies in a lot, like what frequency is making a cause in your entire mix. Because while mixing you have individual musical elements to work on, but while mastering you have a single track in which all your instruments are placed. So in order to keep that entire mix in a balanced way, that's the work of mastering engineer.
Cool. Thank you for that. And Roger, there's one question from you from an anonymous attendee. He wants to know, how does one collect sound for games?
Okay, as I mentioned before, there are different libraries where you have samples, which are predefined samples. But another way to do it is done by a Foley engineer. So Foley is an entire process where a guy actually records the sample himself, and it is done in a closed environment in a recording studio. So this is how different samples are collected for games. It could be like a paddy field, for example. To recreate that sound in a recording studio by doing Foley could be just waving a bed sheet in front of a mic, which could basically make it sound like a paddy field if you process it really well. So that's how sounds are collected for games or movies, basically. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, cool. So see, there are a lot of other questions also, but we'll take them in due course. I thought we should answer these so that the flow is maintained and people attending, understand what these terminologies are. So for all of you who have questions, I've typed it here. We will answer them shortly. Please be patient. Mandar, you can proceed with the presentation, please.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Punit. So moving on to the next slide, which is TVC and broadcast. So Roger, if you could explain.
So TVC and broadcast, this is another field that a sound engineer could really look into getting it as a full-time profession. Uh, Basically, TVC or broadcast engineers are not going to run out of jobs at all, because on a daily basis, we watch TVs and we listen to radios, whereas the demand for it grows on a daily basis as well. TVC might be a new term for many of us, but it's really simple. It's TV commercials. So working on TV commercials, a sound engineer's job is really vital when it's a TV commercial. He needs to be really creative, coming up with sounds. Yes, the video or the animation in the TVC is important, but the way the sound is portrayed makes it more catchy. So TVC is a field where a sound engineer needs to go to his job every single day and be a lot more creative. He needs to have a different approach for every single project he's working on. This is not just for commercials. It can be even for normal TV channels. We watch TV on a daily basis, like I said, and there are so many TV channels doing a lot of things. It could be a live relay, it could be a recorded show, it could be a talk show, it could be a concert on the TV channel, and blah, blah, blah. So TV sector is huge for sound engineers, as same as the broadcast. There are radio channels all around the world doing it 24/7. So there are an ample lot of opportunities for sound engineers to get into broadcast as well. So broadcasting, a sound engineer's role in broadcast could be he would be recording audio for the RJ who's talking on the radio channel, or he could make a radio jingle, which is the music that's played on the radio in a very short form. It could be a 30-second jingle, it could be a 1-minute jingle. So he'd be a jingle producer, for example, and the entire producer for the sound for a radio talk show. Every talk show or every radio channel could have several programs, right? And every program will have a producer, the entire production team working on that particular program. So there are ample lot of opportunities in TVC and broadcast that a sound engineer could look into as well. And this is actually based upon sound engineering, basically. It's the way he mixes things, it's the way he masters things, it's the way he composes things, it's how good he records things, how good he manipulates sound. Everything is used in TVC and broadcast. And this is one of the sectors which could never die forever. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
Yeah.
So as we saw all of the streams in sound engineering, if you guys have any questions about anything, please put them in Q&A section, and like Punit said, we will be discussing all of them later on. So moving on to the next slides, we'll see what are the job roles, job profiles available in each stream. So again, I would like to call my panelist and speak about each one. So I would like to call Hitanshu to speak about music production.
All right, thank you. So music production, it's actually very vast. I would say the job profiles are available, and it's globally. It is already there before India and after. We actually since last 2 decades we've been seeing music production as a job profile. So music programmer, the first one which you can see it, that is where you mostly you are responsible making music, writing on the midis and processing your sounds. Mostly you deals with you sit with music composers, you sit with, sometimes if you are the music composer and you are solely responsible for production, then you make your music programming on the DAWs. There are many DAWs available like Pro Tools, then Logic, Ableton. People, they also produce on FL. So those are the DAWs available where you start writing your music on the media environment. You collect your assets of sounds. Mostly when you deals with when I say assets of sound, mostly it is all about the the live instrument plugins, then synthesizers, samplers, drum sequencers you're lying down. We could see most of the times various aspects of it. So most of the studios, they are giving jobs like studio engineer come music programmer or producer. So I remember when I started my career where as a music programmer and also sound engineer, I was solely responsible for recording as well as mixing, as well as mostly producing music for cinema, then advertisements, jingles. There are a hell lot of money out there where you can earn also. Then coming to the second one, recording engineer. So as I told you again, recording engineer, where you learn all the perspectives of sound engineering, all those fundamentals, and learning how to process your sound, mixing your sound, and many more. Essential thing is, as a recording engineer, that you have to depend on miking techniques, what kind of microphone you should use, then drum recordings, then stereo miking recordings for different several instruments, vocal recording, which is one of the very important approach for any kind of production that you do. Then coming to the mixing engineering, so the job profiles are available mostly on studios. Then many big studios, small studios, there are, they're actually asking for, and we also tied up with many studios and many companies where you also do music programming production for companies like, as my friend Roger also said, that mostly gaming companies like Rockstar Games or Softwares or many more. Sorry, there are many companies available. I mean, private sectors and renowned sectors like Sony and all. They start always accessing people, those who actually can. Make the music, and you will be sitting on the on the one particular room where you start making production for those kind of animations. Companies are like Baiju over here, which we are majorly tied up in India. Then also getting into mastering engineer perspective, this is a complete different state of art, where mastering engineer is solely responsible for mostly making music more refining, more loudness, and there are many more various perspectives which you actually see into. But mostly mixing, mastering, engineering, that comes under one category, where when you will achieve that kind of kind of practice of recognizing frequencies, recognizing loudness, then you probably do that mastering engineer. Sometimes it comes, if you are a person who actually born with a golden ear, then it comes little early to you, but it actually is a matter of practice where you comes more and it actually goes more further. But one in all, which I would say, music production as entire, as an engineer and as a producer, you are sole responsible for making your not only sound better, but also you have to be also choosy for choosing the right element to your track, right, processing to your track. Vocal production, again, one of the major perspectives when we do it. So those are the four particular job profiles that are available in companies and studios. Then radios also you make jingles for radio. There are many companies, many radio companies, those who actually seek help from mostly fresher mind, those who are actually coming with various ideas for making jingles and so on. So yeah, thank you so much, Mandar. That's what it's all about on music production and the job profiles for that.
Yeah, thank you, Hitanshu. So we'll look into the film sound and live sound. So I want to ask Mandar Patil if you could explain us about the job profiles in live sound and film sound.
Sure, Manda. So basically, in film sound, as you can see it, there are only four headers mentioned for careers, but it is not so. So apart from this four, also there are many careers available. So here it's written ADR engineer. So ADR stands for automatic dialogue replacement. So it does not mean that dialogues are automatically replaced, right? So you need to record it so that it matches the lip sync of your dialogue. So it's a huge responsibility of an ADR engineer to record sounds that are not good or which has some noise element present while you do the location sound. So ADR engineer is responsible for recording the tracks and mixing it to a level that it matches your location sound. So that's the major work of ADR engineer. Then coming towards sound designer, so all the effects that are not picked up from the libraries needs to be redesigned. So designing of any kind of sound such as foley or effects like footsteps in your film, or you have cloth rustles, or if some woman is shown with lot of ornaments, then if walking or running scene is shown, then that ornaments make some sound, bangles make some sound, and any other thing that is onto the artist, or if you can see anything moving around, so that comes under sound designing part. So you need to create all those sounds in details. So a sound designer is responsible for creating that sound parts in your film. So when you come back to on location recordings, so this is the production stage that you do. So in on location recordist, you work as a recordist, or you work as a boom operator, or you work as assistants to them. So there are you can also be in the crowd control team, so that while you're recording on location, there should be someone who can control the crowd and make the surrounding sound as less as possible. So these are the responsibilities of location sound recordist. So film mixing engineer, this is the name that we hear, But if you watch a film credit, you can see re-recording mixer or a dubbing mixer. So film mixing engineer is mostly known as a person who finalizes the film and re-records it so that it can be delivered across all the mediums that it needs to be done. So apart from that, you can be a Foley artist, you can be a Foley sound engineer, so the one who records Foley sounds. You can be dubbing artist, you can be a dubbing engineer, and many more. There are many careers in film sound. So coming to live sound. So in live sound, audio technician, so the one who finalizes the equipments and requirements and who gets them proper, who knows the details in and out about all the equipments and its technicalities, setting up the stage and connecting, patching them, patching your microphone, selection of proper microphones, placements of instruments on stage, off stage. So these all things are done by audio technicians. So in a bigger environment, if you see, there are like multiple audio technicians who do the work of placement of things and getting things done. So the one who handles all the audio technicians is called a systems engineer. His work is to make all system kept in proper before the FOH or MOH or the artist comes up on the stage. So all the equipment should be tested for and kept it ready for the engineers to work on. Equipment vendor. So this is again a biggest opportunity for you to enter into live sound. So wherever you have a show, you need equipment. So it is not possible for every band to carry all the equipments with them. So what you tend to do is you find a equipment vendor and hire the equipments required for the event. So you can work with equipment vendors as their system engineers or as installation engineers or their inventory managers, or you can work with various aspects of live sound in an equipment vendors team. FOH engineer, as we already have seen the question, that front of the house engineer is the one who is responsible for mixing the entire band or the set of artists that are present on the stage and the audio output that is audible to the audience. Monitor engineer is the one who sits next to the stage and he manages what output or what feedback is coming to the artist. So it is very necessary that artist on stage could hear what they are playing. So if they cannot hear what they are playing, then what happens is they can miss out on the synchronization part of the band. So monitor engineer plays a very important role in delivering proper output and levels to the artists who are standing on the stage so that they are in synchronization with each other and they know what output is going outside to the audience. So it is not necessary that the FOH mix and monitor mix should be same, because artists can say a different requirement. They can have different requirements what they want to hear, and for the FOH engineer it is mandatory to have all the instruments out coming outside to the audience. So these are various fields in live sound that you can come up to, and in this also there are, like, if you are a FOH engineer you can have an assistant to that, monitor engineer you can have an assistant, but this entire thing depends when the setup is huge. If the setup is small, FOH and MOH, the monitor engineer is one and the same, and he mix from the same perspective. He does both the work of FOH and MOH. So you can have various opportunities in different sets. Okay, so this is what the entire scenario about film and live sound. So Mandar, if you
Yeah.
can continue with other. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mandar. So now about the more section, as we saw game and you can see other things, acoustic audio programmer. So I would like to call Roger to speak about all these job profiles.
Sure, Mandar. So, game sound engineer. I've already explained what a game sound engineer is all about and how does he actually play an important role in the game. So when you look at this, a game sound engineer is not just the person who is making the overall sound for a game. He can be a music producer who's going to make the background score for the game. He could be a recording engineer who's creating the Foley for the game. On the whole, he's called a game sound engineer who's working for a game. So people might ask, like, there would be a a simple question that is there a separate course for a game sound available? I would say a sound engineer is a sound engineer. He needs to get a degree in sound engineering to understand the basic concepts of sound engineering. To take up the role as a game sound engineer, yes, he could do a secondary course that could help him to understand a bit more how to apply his sound engineering concepts in game sound. So a sound engineer needs to know the basics of sound engineering to be a game sound engineer. Then I can move into acoustic consultant actually. Acoustic consultant, in other words, acoustics engineer. So this is a very niche sector which is found. What's the role of an acoustic consultant? He is the guy who is going to plan how to construct a recording studio, for example, where every room in a recording studio needs to be treated in a particular way that the room is going to sound good. There are two different kind of rooms. It's live room and a dead room. A dead room is no matter what you record inside the room, it's going to sound dead, like just the signal that the mic is capturing. Whereas a live room, the room is alive, having a tiny bit of reflections here and there, which enhances the audio that's being recorded in the room. So that's the main role of an acoustic consultant, who advises how a room or even a concert hall or a stadium, even airports, use acoustic consultants to make the room sound better. So acoustic consultants are on high demand because there are very few very good acoustic consultants around in the industry. So acoustic consultant is a job role which could be really, really interesting, and not everyone piece of cake, but yes, if you're into acoustics and you got your math straight, I think that's the way to go. Audio programmer is another very creative job role that a sound engineer could look into. For example, like me, I've done my BTech IT. So I do a bit of coding. I know C++, C, Java. I write Apple scripts. So an audio programmer is the one who writes codes for the audio softwares. There was a transition. It's called analog era and digital era. So nowadays we are in the digital era, which is basically everything digital. Everything is done digitally through a software. Hitanshu spoke about DAWs. There are different DAWs: Pro Tools, Ableton, FL Studio, Logic, Pro X. Who develops all these things? It's an audio programmer. So basically he needs to be a sound engineer who understands coding and who can code in a very detailed way. So that's the job role of an audio programmer, which is really high in demand because every second day there's a new software being released. Let it be even most of the softwares and plugins which are available might be available free, but they are still developed by an audio programmer. Another interesting field that which is under this category is podcasts and audiobooks. I'm not sure how many of y'all are aware about audiobooks, but it's one of the rapid growing fields, especially in India. Amazon had a lot of books for sale online, and people used to buy them and read them on their Kindle app, for example. But in the mid of 2019, what happened? Amazon came up with audiobooks where every Indian book was recorded and posted on their Amazon site, which could basically be downloaded and heard by the customer. So I was part of this project when I used to work in a studio in Bangalore, where every single Indian book, the top selling Indian book, was recorded using a voiceover artist and uploaded onto Amazon. So I basically record around 100 Indian books, and it's a tedious process. It might be simple where you're just recording a voice and making it sound good, but a guy needs to understand how to record things in a really natural way. Otherwise, it will sound computerized. So podcasts and audiobooks also play a major role for a sound engineer's future jobs. So yeah, Mandar.
Okay. Yeah, thank you all, and thank you, Roger. So before we
Yeah.
move on to next section, I would like to ask a couple of questions to all of you. I'm sure these are like frequently asked questions. I mean, I'm sure every one of our guests also having those same questions. So would like to ask Hitanshu that what would you suggest to become a good music programmer?
Sure, Mandar. So, here answer to this question is, I would really say one should be really passionate about music. Also, yes, what happens down when you do music production or as a programmer when you do it, you're just not only listening to when a composer says, okay, fine, you play that, or let's say when a director comes with having no idea in his mind but just saying about the storyboard and the storyline about it. Compositional skills is really important, number one. Number two, where if you really good enough in terms of writing, in DAW softwares like MIDI writing, mostly we do what when non-musicians, mostly they are having a kind of fear that, oh, I cannot be a musician. But the technology is giving you at least answers that nowadays everything is everybody can be. I mean, Logic Pro says, okay, fine, a doctor can make music also. I'm just giving an example where you are getting applications like GarageBand in iPad or iPhone. It gives you loops. Mostly, this gives you a kind of ideations, and mostly you put your own ideas and accentuate it, mostly in terms of like writing down on the midis. So that is what we actually many of the audio schools they teach, and mostly music production courses about, where we teach about essentially how to actually accentuate your own ideas that you actually have thought of, a melody or let's say a chord or anything as such. So those are the essential things which a person needs to come up with, and along with music theory, which is the basics which we actually it's really important for a producer or a programmer to understand chord progressions, writing the entire melody on the DAWs, and many more.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what is all about my answers. Hope I have given you answer to it.
Yeah. Thank you, Danshu. So yeah, thanks for that. So, and I mean, I just wanted to ask you. So since like like as I was introducing you, I said you have worked on Malgudi Days, which is recently released.
All right.
So how was your approach when you were working on it? Like, what was your job role? And I mean, if you could explain
Yeah, of
how
course.
was the procedure of it?
Yeah. So, first of all, what happens? The composer for that movie is Gagan Baderia, who is actually has done incredibly a great job on the composition side. First was the major challenge where happens mostly whenever you work for a movie. That is, you are actually going with an empty mind and completely like having no idea about what is going to happen or what kind of storyboard it is. So there is a setting happens mostly between director or music composer, sometimes music composers and the producers, because music composers they actually hire sometimes producers like us or programmers like us, where they wanted to, when they are unable to make their own music, they actually seek help from music producers and programmers. Nowadays everybody music composers and everybody music producers and composers and programmers also, a
Yeah.
person can do by himself. So what happens is a basic setting is needed where you need to understand what is the storyboard of it. Number one. Number two, how exactly it goes around the feel of the entire lyrics, where also lyricists also sit with you and he says about the lyrics, and a producer needs to understand, okay, fine, these are could be the elements when I say always it is all about the instruments, could be starting from a bass, drums, then slowly proceeding further, layering down all sounds together, where he wouldn't be thinking of then and there, but he will be sharing, exchanging the information. Okay, fine, this is what I have in my mind. So what happened in this movie, I actually had couple of ideas in my mind, where I said Gagan, okay, fine, hey, I want you to do in this way. Then he said, okay, fine, just send me a final rough cut. Then I actually sent him. Then he loved that. Then again, it went to the director. The director has to approve it. Then again, director always says, no to at the first, because directors mostly they are very choosy, very selective in terms of storyboard, which is really good. But always corrections are there. So these are the sequential and step-by-step process happens down, no, not only in this particular movie, but it is generally common in nature, no matter whatever the movie industry you go, as a producer, as a composer, as a mixing engineer. Again, we need sometimes an entire setting with the director, producer, music composer, music producers, then programmer. Then there are also job roles for music supervisor, but which in generally India is having very rarely. But music supervisor is a really important job role in Hollywood music when you get into there, and he actually look after into anything and everything all in all. And then also sound engineers who actually going to mix. But here in India, it is always been step by step in individual manners. It happens down. So yeah, these are the things which has happened down the line when I worked for this movie. And one thing which I would like to definitely say before I end up, that is always we keep empty mind in our entire mindset, that we have no idea what is the musicality of it. So always have a question that, okay, fine, how are we going to approach for the music? Then there is no answer to it until unless you are not sitting with them and you are not understanding the storyboard of it.
True. Thank you, Tanshu.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like one more question. Before we move into, I just wanted to ask you, Mandar Patil. So since Mandar, you are mixing for live sound. So if you could, tell how to acquire a skill set to become be a good live sound engineer, and from where should I start if I'm a fresher?
So basically, starting, if you are a fresher, then you should assist someone, a live sound engineer, or you should join a team of any sound equipment vendor team. So where you can learn about equipments. So before getting as a mixing engineer, you should always start with understanding your equipments. So starting with cables, starting with your electronic gears, your instruments, how they sound, what are different microphones, how do they react into the environment, what are different kinds of monitors, how do you need to place them in order to have proper isolation from the stage, uh, and have do not have feedback in the system. So these are the things that as a beginner that you should learn. So it is a stepwise process. You cannot directly go in a live sound team and say that you will be working as a mixing engineer without any prior experience. So you should understand your equipments first, then you can go towards stage technician or audio technician, managing the stage setup and the connections of it. Then slowly you can go to the mixing of the stage and patching of the stage. Then you can go to monitor calibrations and all. And then final stage is your FOH mixing engineer. So this is how you can basically enter into live sound and start your career as a live sound engineer. So till the time you get to a mixing engineer, you definitely have your perspective of how the mix should sound on stage and how the mix should sound for the audience. So that gives you a hands-on experience of understanding and working with various engineers, being an audio technician.
Thank you, Mandar. And see, it's live sound. So, and as we all understand, it's happening live, and one mistake can ruin the whole show. So, can you tell us what are the challenges you face on the job? Like, what are the big challenges or small challenges also, even if you could tell us?
Yeah, there can be a different challenge every time you set up. Even if the setup is same, your positioning is same, the venue is same. There can be multiple things that are going wrong. Sometimes a cable might be an issue, and you might be wondering what is going wrong. And from so many cables, one cable is a faulty cable. So finding that cable is the biggest job. So keeping your presence of mind in live sound is the major thing. If there is noise coming out of your monitors, then first thing that you should check is the power supply for your monitoring. Second thing, you should check your instrument, soloing it and muting it. If it solves your problem, then that instrument is either faulty or the cable connected to that instrument is faulty. So checking in a sequence is most important thing. Like sometimes it happens your generator goes off. So what happens? Your entire show goes off. You
Right.
cannot do anything. So in that scenario, if the show is that important and that big, you should always have an alternate generator. Even if one fails, you have a secondary generator, or you have a UPS that is powering up your system, entire system. So to keep, at least to save your session and switch it off to a certain level until the power resumes. So this is what you can do it. Another failure that I have seen or observed with my experiences, uh, you can have alternate console ready with all the inputs that are coming to your main console, with all the patch list save on that. So even if nowadays digital snakes have come up into picture, so you just have to carry one Ethernet cable from your console to the stage. So you can have two consoles simultaneously patched with the same inputs coming and same settings done. So even if one fails, one line fails, you can have another line continuously working without any failure in your output quality. So
Okay.
these are the things that you can work on.
Okay. Thank you, Mandar. And yeah, like Roger, I want to ask you, since you said, you have worked on audiobooks, and so how is it different than recording a song?
Sorry, guys, we have a little poll for you guys, you all, which will show up on your screen. Kindly just fill it while Roger is taking over and answering. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. So Mandar, you're asking me how is it different from music production, basically?
Yeah, because since Tanshu was, speaking about his procedure of when
Yeah.
he explained us the procedure of, being a recording engineer and everyone. So now how is it different? Because anyways, end of the day, I'm recording, right? So,
Yes.
and that recording a song in a studio and recording a audiobook in a studio, how is it different?
So I would say it's black and white. Basically, it's totally opposite. Whereas your audiobook could have different requirements. It might be an audiobook with just a voice over it, and it can even be a audiobook which has sound effects and a background score, and mixed in 5.1. I've mixed uh, I've actually mixed a book in Dubai, which had sound effects and a background score, and I did a 5.1 mix for an audiobook. So basically, it depends on what kind of project are you working on to. But the core idea of how an audiobook is way too different than music production. Yeah, music production, there are a lot of things that actually complements the lead vocals. But in an audiobook, you only have the vocal, which is your main role to make it sound super soothing and make it sound solid. So the things that we usually take note while we are recording a voiceover artist for an audiobook is the spacing that he gives between words and sentences, uh, the expressions that he does when he's actually narrating the book, and the final thing would be his breaths. So these are the three main things that we look onto to make the audiobook sound a lot better. Because if you're going to hear an audiobook with a lot of breaths in it, it's going to be really annoying. Whereas at the same, when you're hearing an audiobook without breaths in it, it's going to be monotonous and computerized, which also sounds not that great. So it's really give and take kind of. You have to play around and make sure that it sounds to its fullest. So that I feel is one of the main job roles of a guy who's recording an audiobook. Whereas when he's recording a voice for a music production project, he needs to make sure that the voice, which is his only responsibility, sound amazingly clear, that the audiobook is a great hit.
Okay, thank you, Roger. And so, and like, let's say a game sound engineer, which is a new and which is a very vast field nowadays. It's booming nowadays. And so, what would you expect from that job profile if you start working as a fresher?
Initially, as a fresher, I would probably advise people to start interning at production houses which are working for major game sounds. And another good way to kickstart his career would be to work on smaller projects, which would make his portfolio look a lot more stronger. and which will be a key for him to enter into a production house which is doing game sound for Ubisoft or Rockstar Games, like Hitanshu mentioned. So if he's going to work on a major production for the next uh, God of War, which is going to come out, he needs to have a good portfolio which is going to showcase his work, and which is actually going to convince the audio production house that this guy is suitable for my role. So I think if somebody is looking forward to get into game sound, he needs to get his basics in sound engineering really, really sorted, where he needs to be a very strong guy with his basics in audio technology and the basics in sound engineering. And then he needs to be the best who manipulates a sound to make it sound totally different. It could, like how I said, a paddy field could be manipulated from waving a blanket in front of a microphone, and on footsteps in a forest could be recorded by a guy who's walking inside the recording studio with leaves under him, basically. So he needs to be really creative, and to bring this creativity in him, he needs to start working from day one. Let it be small projects. We at CMedio, basically, we encourage students, especially the sound engineering students, to work hand in hand with the game development team. So what the game development team does, they do their projects. They have their own set of assignments and projects and KRAs that they need to get done every semester. So we encourage our sound students to start working for them. Yeah, don't charge them because they're students as well. But basically, when you start doing this, what happens? He gets a hang of using and implementing different things, which
True.
is going to help him for his game sound profession.
Yeah.
By the time he completes his third year, he's going to have a solid portfolio. Yeah, it may be smaller games developed by his friends, but still he has a portfolio to go out there and get an internship in a very good company. So I think that's how he has to look forward to getting this done.
Yeah, and like you mentioned about the portfolio, and then like you was always speaking about, how important is the portfolio. So, but many people might be having this question that, anyways, I'm doing a diploma or a degree. Then, what is the importance of the portfolio? So, can you explain us what is the importance of it?
I guess every sound engineer who is actually working in the field knows an answer to this, and I'm sure everybody's smiling when this question is being asked. So, a portfolio is your key to get into an internship or a job, but your degree is gonna take you to the doorstep of the production house. So, unless you have a degree, you're not going to be considered as a sound engineer or an audio producer. Yes, you might have a great portfolio, but then if you're not going to know the basics, they're not going to, yeah, they might not consider you. There are chances. But then if you have a sound engineering degree and you have a good portfolio, you go approach and your portfolio speaks for you. Mandar?
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. Yeah, thanks, Roger. And so I want to ask one last question to Manda Patil about a film sound. So, it is fancy. It is very, what we say, appealing to see, people mixing in a Dolby or, in a studio sitting mixing films in 5.1 or whatnot. So, but, I mean, as we all know, that it takes a lot of time to be at that position. But what would you suggest to our students to from where do they can start working in film sound, like very earlier stage, and how they can proceed to the dream job role?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, as discussed prior, in coming to the film sound, it is not necessary to go step by step. So one can opt his understanding with how the film works, and one can directly jump as a film mixing engineer or an ADR engineer or a sound designer or on location recordist with prior knowledge of how it is done. Okay, so from that, as the question is regarding the film mixing engineer, you should start working on mixing on short films or small films, student projects, or you can create your own film, create your own music, add some effects to it, add some voiceovers to it, and start balancing them and check it on how does it sounds. So that's the first stage on how you start mixing a film. And slowly, as you get more knowledge and you get more number of inputs coming up, share it with people around you who has a good understanding about film mixes, and try to hear it on different systems. How does it sound? If you're mixing stereo, then try to listen on the home stereo system, the professional audio system on headphones, and make a differentiation about how what are the differences that you observe in all these mediums, and how can you manage the differences to be as less as possible in a film mixing environment. So understanding the element and understanding the perspective of the field, that's more important than mixing a film. So if you understand what is the desired output of the film, you can easily mix a film. But if you don't understand, and if you have lot of knowledge about film mixing, you know lot of knowledge about mixing inside a DAW, but you don't understand the emotion of the film, then it becomes very difficult for a film mixing engineer to mix that film.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, Mandar, for explanation. There's one question actually I wanted to ask Punit. He's also here, and Punit is the head of academics for sound department. So I would like to ask him one question about many people says that why should we join an audio school where when we can go online and learn about all these tools? And so in your opinion, Punit, what does it make difference, I mean, between both of these things, and why someone should just join audio school?
I think, Mandar, the first thing is basically you have to understand it's a creative field primarily. Yes, we do use technology and a lot of technology, and you need to have a knack of good technology to excel. But it's primarily how creative you get. So, like for any creative individual, the more you do, the better you get at it. Like an artist will keep painting, and at some stage, he's gonna really make a masterpiece. So by and large, that's how it works. An actor gets better with time. So similarly with music, sound engineering, acting, whatever creative field you are in, the more you do, the better you get. And sure, I mean, there are people who will learn online and do courses and learn from that. But you are denying yourself by doing that. Basically, you're denying yourself an opportunity to interact with other creative minds and pick from them. Like, it's simple. I've almost spent like 14 years of my life in studios, either assisting or either working with assistants, or basically working with various musicians, directors, lyricists. There are so many things you while spending that time in the studio, you pick up from them, or maybe even having a cup of chai or having a meal. While you talk, you learn. So the whole idea of a good school would be to, like, spend time together, work on projects together. Also, there are different departments here within SEAM as well. So you will get to interact with filmmaking students, you will get to interact with gaming students, and you will get to pick their brains and work on projects together, and do stuff like that. So it's all about exposure. The more you put yourself out there, the more you'll get exposed, and in return, more you will gain. So yeah, hope that answers.
Yeah, thank you, Punit. So I think now we can move on to the section where mm, you guys can ask us any questions. I mean, I'm sure you are putting your question in the Q&A section. So from there, I mean, but you can keep on, since you have heard all of the questions now, and I'm sure these just opens more questions in your mind. So if you could just put your questions, and we can just start answering them.
So there are a lot of questions. What I'll do is I'll quickly start reading them and divert them to all you guys. And Just, quickly within 10 seconds, 15 seconds answer each, because there are quite a few of them. So the first question from Alpha is, can you master at home? Mandar Patil, do you want to take this?
Yes, so definitely Alpha you can master at home, but you will require like a proper setup done in your home. So you cannot master on your home commercial speakers. You will need professional speakers with at least a minimum amount of treatment to your room, positioning inside your room, and that will help you in basic mastering. But definitely if you have a good studio setup with proper outboard gears, analog outboards, then it will make a difference in your master. But yes, you can master at home.
Also, one thing I would like to add on, mastering is not something which will come to you very early. Mastering engineers are generally people who spend a lot of time and, in true sense, masters of their craft. So you can't just come out of any audio school and say, "Hey, I'm a mastering engineer." You might be able to wing it, yes, but if I give you 10 different tracks from 10 different genres, you may not be able to do justice to this, as opposed to just mastering a EDM track and making it loud and sending it out. So you'll get there, but to be a good mastering engineer, you have to be a good mix engineer first, and to be a good mixing engineer, you have to be a good recording engineer first. So it will take some time to get there. So the next question is by Johan. Uh, how does someone get into DJing? Johan, you can join any DJ school, or you can learn it on your own in your house, or you can go and assist a DJ. And yeah, basically, all those paths are open to you. Okay, some anonymous attendee wants to know what are the job prospects. So you might have missed the slide. Mandar, if you could just go back to the slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can read it and that will pretty much answer it. So Shadab Alam has a question. He's a student, I think. Uh, Pointing job profile and film in India, we find most part of job are done by a single sound engineer. Does it become difficult for newbies to deal or enter the field? Shadab, I'll quickly answer that myself. No, a single sound engineer is not going to work on the entire film. That's a myth. Uh, there are different stages. If you're even talking about film mixing, there's a sound designer, there's a mix engineer, there's a location engineer, and uh, there are different people working under them and their assistants. One guy will handle sound effects, one guy will handle music, one guy will handle Foley ambience, one guy will manage archiving, one guy will manage mixing. So it's a team of people generally which works together. So do me a favor, just watch any film you like and start looking at the credits. You see a lot of it. And yeah, if you start assisting someone, you will learn the ropes of it, and you'll make your own contacts and go further. uh, Black Hawk is asking, how much time does a post production of a film need? Mandar, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So basically, it takes different amount of times. So if it is a 2 hour films, as you have mentioned, so a music guy will take music production 1 hour for each minute. According to that, he'll consider his timings. But and a sound designer can require like 4 to 5 days to design like 5 minutes or depending on the complexity of the film. But it is possible that a film's entire post production can be completed within a month, and it can take 6 months also. So it exactly depends on how much efforts have been put up and what is the content of the film. So if it is a mythological film and you need to add lot of sound designs from the perspective where you need to create every sound separately, then it might take more amount of time. But when it is a film which has less amount of sound design or is a silent film, which has music elements more compared to the sound designing, then it can take less amount of time. So it exactly depends on how the production level is and what kind of product is expected in the final. Yeah, Puneet, I'm done.
Hello. Okay. Cool. So we'll
Sorry, I think I
just
was on mute. Poison is asking, can I know the difference between diploma in sound engineering and BSc in sound engineering? Mandar, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So basically, when you talk about diploma in sound engineering, it's a short 1 year course in which you will learn about aspects of sound in depth only. When we talk about degree in sound engineering with the details of sound, you get more amount of time towards practicing that elements. So diploma is for those who are pretty much little bit experienced and working in that field but doesn't have a professional knowledge about that film. But coming towards degree, you are very much fresher to the entire field. You know basic production, or you have worked somewhere for a couple of months and you don't have the entire knowledge about the film things that happen in sound. So with the course, you basically tend to get lot of amount of time for your practicing and projects that are there. So that's the major difference that you have between diploma and degree courses. And other than that, you get ample of time for solving your doubts. You can work with projects with the rest of the students that are present with you on the course, or you can take some projects from outside who are already passed and working in their fields at this stage.
Cool. Thank you. So Kashish also has a lot of questions. So Kashish, to begin with, the fee structure, you can get in touch with us, via website, and we'll answer all that for you. And the admission process has already begun. As far as what basics should I know before starting a course, I think it will completely depend on what you want to get out of it. For example, if you're looking to do the course to become a music producer and work in music, then I think taking up an instrument, working with basic softwares and all that is going to be good. So it completely depends on where you're coming from. Next is uh, Roger. You might want to answer this. What is the difference between mixing and mastering headphones?
Different between mixing and mastering headphones.
Yeah.
There are no different kind of headphones. The only different kind of headphones that I know are professional headphones and basically consumer-based headphones, where professional headphones are used by sound engineers and consumer-based headphones are, like example, Beats is a consumer-based headphones where sound engineers don't recommend those headphones for their own use because they can't get a clear sound. But mixing and mastering on a headphone, if I need to talk about that, yeah, it can be done. You can get a clear picture while you're mixing a song and mastering a song if you have basically trained your ears to your headphone. For example, I use the Bear Dynamic DT990 Pro. I've used that for a couple of years, say 2 or 3 years now, and I've trained my ears to know how the DT sounds. So when I'm mixing my project, when I'm in a remote place and I'm still working on a project, a freelance project, for example, I'm mixing my song on my headphones where I take the same project and play it back in a studio. I can narrow it down to a decent mix, even if it's played on studio monitors. That's how much I understood my headphones with my ears. So I think mixing and mastering on headphones is fine if you're working remotely, but usually it's done in a recording studio with a decent set of monitors, and that's how it's done. Yeah, Puneet.
Yeah, I think what I would recommend all of you all is, every product which comes out on the market has basically a manual to it and a frequency chart of the response it generates uh, or absorbs in the in case of a microphone. So kindly study all that and see. These terms are basically marketing gimmicks which are used for laymen. So if you are not a sound engineering professional or a student, you will fall for such things. Or if you're a beginner, you will fall for such things. But once you study and you go further, you will realize these are all marketing things. Hope that
Yeah, exactly. I would like to add one more to that, Puneet. Um, every equipment that we buy or use, it actually comes with a manual. Before investing in an equipment, we'd all suggest you guys to download the manual online and read through it and identify, because a sound engineer needs to know what the manual says, and that's how he gets to decide what equipment to choose basically. So it's highly recommended to start reading manuals from day one to understand and to make your choices really, really good. Thanks, Puneet.
no problems. Okay, so that's the next question is also related by Rohit. So he's asking if the AKG C1000 microphone is the best for instruments like tabla. Uh, I'll answer that, Rohit. There's no good, better, or best. It completely depends on what you have at that point of time or to record that particular thing. And only a microphone is not going to make a difference in the way you record. It's the preamp which it goes through, it's the room which you record it in, it's the sound card you use, it's basically the musician and the instrument also will make a difference. So there's no good, better, and best. It's what you generate out of it. So as U87 Neumann and EKG 414 are supposed to be considered as really good for recording vocals, but you'll be surprised if I tell you that a lot of good vocals on a lot of nice songs are simply recorded on a SM57, which is probably a tried and tested entry level microphone for a lot of recordings which are done. So, for example, someone like Bono in U2 does all his vocals only on a SM57, which is nearly like a 4,700 rupee microphone. So all these things again will depend on situation. Also, it will depend on the kind of song you're recording. What is the song demanding? What tone of the tabla? So yeah, while all of us do have our preferences, but our preferences are only to ourselves, and generally you can make almost anything work if you are good with what you do.
Yeah.
Roger, one more for you. So one anonymous attendee wants to know C sharp and C++ is not included in the course. I think they're talking about game audio. So if you want to just
Yeah, so C Sharp and C++ are basically the coding languages that are used to develop a game, and that's the role of the game developer. So a game audio engineer need not know all these languages. We just make sure that we know our sound really well and we give it to a game developer to integrate it. So yes, a game sound engineer doesn't need to know programming languages, but if he's interested, yes, he can learn.
yeah, knowledge is always good and always benefits you. So the more you know, the better.
Totally.
Uh, okay, there are a lot of random comments. I don't even see questions, guys. If you want to add comments, please start using the chat and don't spam the Q&A. Because of all your spamming, the important questions might get missed out. So it's a request. Please move on to chat if you want to talk to each other. Uh, so yeah, can you still get into game sound even if you don't play much games? Uh, uh, how can you become a musician if you don't want to listen to music? How can you direct a film if you don't want to watch films? How can you write a book if you don't want to read? So how can you even play cricket if you don't like to play cricket? So it's a stupid question. Guys, just go through the Q&A and see if you can spot anything because there's a lot of spam here.
So this question is for Hitanshu. How can you get paid projects as a freelance music producer and how to start? So
All right. So can you just repeat that again, Manda, please?
yeah, how do you start working as a freelance music producer and start getting paid projects?
Oh yeah, that's it's kind of bitty. It's a kind of bit kind of very tedious process for a musicians to get into it. But yes, as a fresher, what you can do is you can start making your portfolios. As my all fellow members in the panelists, they have actually told you that portfolio and making your portfolios is really important, which gives you chances and to reach out those network where you need to be. uh, you first of all you need to be really honest with yourself that whether you know what exactly your limitations as a musician, as an engineer, as a game sound designer, sound whatever it is you are into. But yes, that's important. As a musician, I would definitely say that make your YouTube videos, start making your kind of technicalities, when you make music. For example, you make the entire process of the track. How exactly have you actually gone through? You can just document that and you can put yourself. That is one more thing which you can do it. Podcasting is again another approach where you can just come up with, where you can every weekend or every monthly basis you can start making your music and start putting up on SoundClouds. Then there are many third parties and I would say companies, and like CD Baby, like company, they actually gives you a kind of chances where you can start putting your music, where you can also get to know those processes also. That'll be really good for you. Then then there are many things where you can just start putting up and like just make your kind of PDF or kind of document for yourself as your entire profile or a CV, where you can start approaching companies, or let's say you can start approaching to different studios. Studios is very approachable, where studio always been hunting fresher talent, or mostly they need a fresher mindset where they actually can hire you. But one and all, at the end, which I would definitely say one thing, that never expect in the beginning something really big in your hand, that is a good remuneration part, or uh, probably a good accolades or recognitions, because that only happens in a gradual process, very gradual process. Mostly I've seen and I've come across people, those who actually completely makes them it's completely make them feel really down. They feel, okay, fine, come on, I make music, but nobody's recognizing me. But never get too worried about that. One fine day it will definitely come to you, where you will definitely click onto those areas where you can start working, or start working with all the big shots. As I told you, it's all actually gradual processes, never happens within one night. So yeah, profile and portfolios are really, really important.
Cool. There's one question that Shadab is saying: instead of learning advanced or complete programming language, but in context to Unity and Unreal, what basic level of programming language is good to learn if he has no background in computer science or software engineering? So Shadab, I would like to answer this, that we generally, if you want to work in game audio or game sound, you don't need to learn any programming language. We You can integrate your sounds into Unity, and there are integration packs where with the help of them we integrate our sounds in it. So generally, game developers, they do all the coding in Unity or Unreal, like you're asking. But yes, if you want to become a audio programmer, like Roger explained, that you can work in different streams of audio, in terms of technical streams. So that you can start with a simple C language, and you can learn that, or Python, which helps in many audio apps. So you can start learning those languages. I hope I answered your question, Shada.
Mandar, I would like to also ask you something, where also
Yeah.
you have done your engineering in Dubai, and you have really good experience out there in those sectors as well. So how is your all-in-all experience since your starting career as a sound engineer, and you've been here right now with us?
After my studies, I was working in live sound. I was working in a performing arts theater. I was a technical head over there. So I was handling sound and all, and it was very different experience because
Mm.
I mean, obviously things over here and there are a little bit different, but yeah, it just taught me a lot at that time as a fresher. Yeah, I learned a lot about I mean, field experience that which helped me a lot. And then doing live sound for concerts, or I was assisting people in World Trade Center over there, and helping them to do their do their job. So that also taught me a lot. Like Manda Patil was explaining, that at the start you have to assist people as an audio tech. So I was actually an audio tech at that time, and I was running cables from here and there, and I was
Mm.
doing set up on the stage and helping people. But at the same time, I was to be honest, I was not liking it. I mean, I'm sure most of the people would relate to me, but I one thing now I know, that I learned a lot at that time, and that taught me a lot.
Okay.
And that actually helps me a lot now also when
Mm.
I'm teaching, because
Mm.
a lot of the things a lot of the problems you go through, and now it just helps you when you're teaching your students, and when you're working also on your projects.
Yeah, great, Nanda. Thank you. And one more, I would like to also add on one point where somebody just asked that what is the benefit of joining audio school, and Puneet also has explained really well about it. But I would like to add on one more thing, that uh, I've been looking and I've been checking many videos on YouTube's, on many sites. Those are actually providing courses. They're good, but if you only fall and end up finding the good videos on YouTube, because many of them they're explaining wrongly. And secondly, here we are not at all having any kind of pointing out on them. But yeah, I by myself, I've actually checked many videos. Those are actually not explaining in detail, or they are like explaining haywire and all that. That is number one. Number two, where you cannot get your resources available in your home by just learning from those sites. So it's always been better to get hands around on your equipments and getting to something. I always been learning one thing, that learning from your guru is always in benefit for you, rather just learning from now. Something is happening down digital way, that learning YouTube's, because I remember our days. And also of course Puneet also, I mean, we all learn from completely, like, I would say, like, completely, like, in a detailed manner, but just by having our faculties and mentors around us. No YouTube's those time actually. But yeah, nowadays everything is easy. It's good to have those YouTube videos learning after something you learn those concept in your college, then, or in anywhere wherever you actually can resource it. Then you come, then after that you just start finding those videos which are really good, and actually helping you out in terms of clearing your doubts or concepts or fundamentals or many more other stuff. So that is why school is always an important, when your teachers and your mentors are around, and they will actually guide you every time whenever you wanted to access them and want to reach out them. So definitely would like to add on this.
Thank you.
So there's
And
this one question:
Mhm.
is Cakewalk by BandLab a good DAW? I really want to answer that question. Uh, Many of my students come up to me and they ask such questions, and many aspirants around the globe would have the same question: is it a good DAW? Is it good enough compared to the other one? The the idea that we need to understand behind this, it is a DAW is a tool, and you are the person who's using the tool. So the more you get to understand how a DAW works, the better you get at producing things using it. So a person could be an expert in Ableton Live, and uh, another person could be an expert in using Logic Pro. So it's not that Ableton Live is greater than Logic Pro. Logic Pro is much more easier to produce things than Ableton Live. It is definitely not that. It is the entire process where you get to understand how things work and how you can put it to use. So a DAW is a tool which you need to look into and not actually consider that as a basic concept that's going to stop you from exploring into all the other creative opportunities that's available. Yeah, thanks.
Okay,
uh,
so there is one more question by Rohit. Why is it said that for a sound engineer, we should have information about at least one instrument? What role does it play? So basically, understanding an instrument makes you understand the functionality of that instrument. And when you know one instrument, you know different scales that are present in an instrument. So if you understand scales, then it makes you easy to become a music producer, music composer, music arranger, to become a mixing engineer, and with practice to become a mastering engineer, to become a recording engineer. So instrument, understanding instrument and its sounds is very important, and it plays a very huge role. But if you don't know any instrument but you have interest in learning them, you should definitely learn an instrument and understand at least how is the functionality of that instrument. So that was a pretty good question that Rohit had asked. Another question that I would like to answer is, how do you get jobs in TV channels or radio stations? So basically, you have different channels for as LinkedIn, or their official websites for news channels, or the radio channels where they post their requirements. And if they have requirements which match your skill sets, then you can definitely apply for them with the portfolio. That's where your portfolio comes into picture with the degree that you have. So I used to work as a broadcast audio engineer in a news channel before. So what was the requirement? I was an electronics and telecommunication engineer with a degree of sound engineering. So that made me compatible to fix into that news channel as an audio broadcast engineer. So I used to work on the audio systems, and I used to look into their broadcast system to upload the audio that was recorded. So this kind of combination of the fields that you have already studied and the experiences that you have gained prior, that can help you work and get job into the industry.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Are
Just
there any? Yeah.
few two more questions. I'll definitely would like to answer this. This anonymous attendee is asking, keep on asking the same question, that what is the path to become an arranger or composer? I mean, there are many paths which is actually there, which we have actually discussed and I've answered you. There's no such path yet, but it's just that you have to start from the scratch as a composer and start roaming around. And probably things are really easy right nowadays. Social media has become the mainstream line than record labels, so you don't have to worry about that. You have to just start putting your music on the social media and start approaching to reaching out people like on Twitter and Instagram, all those major artists. I would like to add on to this that nowadays all the big personalities, all the big shots, musicians, engineers, they are sitting home and they're actually coming on live, and you can just approach your music then and there also. That's a great idea which you can just come up with. Then one more question, Vatsal, who is actually our past out student who actually cleared his diploma from our college, is asking that what portion of sound engineering students generally show interest for higher studies after diploma degrees sound engineering? Is it decreasing over the years, increasing, or constant on the level, or something like that? He is asking for. So yeah, Vatsal, as you said, I mean, always when all of us, we actually mentioning that same point only. Until unless you are not reaching the industry and start working on your skills, always you are starting from the scratch only. Mastering those certification, of course, add on a great value to your career. That is when you get considered by company, as my fellow person Roger has said that. But until unless our field is something where you need to get yourself skilled, you need to get practicing. That is where we school are open, where we give you resources like our computers available with the DAWs and studios. Then the environment which is actually I would like to say environment which are getting it, microphones, until speakers and mixer boards and everything. So until unless you not get skilled on your particular portion, that what exactly you're liking to do, then definitely that's going to be a little tough for you to understand, okay fine, how exactly is going to cover up. So some answers always happens done after once you start working for the industry, no matter what kind of industry you're working for, or you're willing to working for.
Thank you, Tanju. Are there any other questions? I mean, you guys want to take it from the Q&A section and answer?
Yeah, there's this one question. Is making remix tracks a good way to build a fan base, or should someone keep releasing their originals? I think once you start getting a hang of what you do, you'll not have this doubt. Yes, making remixes of tracks, say there's a top 40 Billboard track being released every single week. So if you're going to remix one of those tracks and post it, yes, it's going to get you a lot more people following you on your YouTube channel or your SoundCloud page. But then you'll be stamped as a person who's just going to create remixes. On the other hand, if you're going to be working on your original music and pasting it on those same platforms, you're going to have a lot of followers, and they're also going to be listening to your original content and spreading the word. So basically, you need to, if you're interested in remixing content, yes, it's fun remixing content, but you should always work on your songs, which is highly recommended. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So yeah, and thanks for being here, guys. And I hope our participants get all the answers and all the information about the sound engineering field. And once again, I want to thank you all for joining us. And here are
Thank you,
our
Mandar.
and here are the details of us, of our branches, their email addresses, their phone numbers also. So anyone wants to contact us, they can contact us through the email or the phone number. You can also go to our website, and and you can see us, what all the departments we have, and how we function. You can go through our website and see. So, yeah, I think we can end this today.
All
So
right.
I would like to thank all the attendees who attended this webinar, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak to you all. Hope you all really liked how the way it went. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.